The following broadcast is brought to you by the iGolf Sports Network.
Golf Talk Live is sponsored by the iGolf Sports Network and Golf Tips Magazine. Here's Andrew to tell you more about our sponsors.
iGolf Sports is a live stream broadcast and media production company providing quality programming designed to attract the golfing enthusiast. And Golf Tips, the game's most in-depth instruction magazine, including reviews on the latest equipment, tips from top teaching professionals, all designed to help you improve from tee to green. Welcome to Golf Talk Live with your host, Ted Odorico. Join Ted each week as he speaks with some of the best in golf. This week's special guest will join us a bit later. But first up is another great discussion on Coach's Corner. So let's introduce tonight's Coach's Corner panel.
All right, welcome back, everybody, and I'm super excited to have tonight's featured guest, Mark Mattingly. He is the Executive Vice President of Landscapes Golf Management. Let me tell you just a little bit about him, and then we'll get into tonight's discussion. He's a 30-year golf industry executive, and as I mentioned, he's the Executive Vice President of Landscapes Golf Management, and they're an operator of more than 60 golf courses, country clubs, and destination clubs across America. His primary role is helping owners of golf properties formulate strategies towards achieving their desired objectives. In addition to overseeing business development, Mark also manages special projects and contributes to the overall strategic direction of Landscapes Golf Management. He's also a Class A PGA professional, and was a longtime board member of the Indiana PGA and member of the Club Management Association of America. So, Mark, welcome to Golf Talk Live. I appreciate it. Thank you. So let's talk about the tournament. Before we get into what we're going to talk about, I want to get your thoughts on the Masters that just happened last week. Did your pick come to fruition, or did you have somebody else in mind?
Pick, and then there's the practical pick. So I had the pleasure to actually be down there with some guests and be there as the final putts were made. And my guest chose to be indoors in the air conditioning, and we cheered along with the balance of the restaurant. And I don't think there was anybody in there that wasn't rooting for Rory when it really came down to it. I have to say, my office pool, I had Bryson because I was afraid that Rory's mind would get the better of his body, because he's got all the talent in the world, and it was just great to see him, break through and get it done. So
yeah, it was for a while there. I mean, Bryson obviously took the lead for a little while, and then a number 11, of course, he had that mishap there, hitting it into the water, and I was talking with somebody else earlier in the program about that, and that was really sort of the change for him. I mean, he had some other issues that happened along the way, but that was really a defining moment, I think, was when he hit that shot into the water. And unfortunately, yours went in the water with it. And but you know what, Rory was a good choice as well, and I'm happy for him. And he works so hard. I mean, all these guys do, but he works so hard. And I think back to 2011 when he tried to get it done back then, and it didn't happen. And he's obviously had many other events since then, and that this really meant a lot to him. And there was a few moments on 13 there. There was a few, ahs in the gallery thinking, "Uh-oh, here we go. This is going to be, real exciting finish." And obviously, Justin Rose was warming up in the bullpen, as they say, but Rory got it done in hole one in the playoff. But yeah, it was an exciting. You know what? It was an exciting Masters. I've watched the last several Masters, and they're all pretty good. Don't get me wrong, but this was especially exciting because I was rooting for Rory. I like Bryson. Don't get me wrong, but I was rooting for Rory, and I was glad to see he got it done.
It just shows his humanity. How many times have we laid up when we have a lead, thinking, what I need to do here is just play the hole safe, only to end up with a tragic result like he did? I mean, it was just so much. I could just live vicariously through him, thinking, God, how many times have I done that to myself? And he could have easily gotten home in 2 and at least put it in a bunker, and at worst made a 6 and probably a 5. Maybe he doesn't make birdie, and yet we know what happened when he laid up. So anyway, just shows his humanity.
Yeah, exactly. And he just he's such a I think for this generation of golfers, up and comers, and that you see out there, he really, in my mind, is a great steward of the game, not just for getting all of his talent and stuff, but he's just a kind of a very humble person. I obviously have never met him personally, but just from everybody that I've talked to that knows him, and obviously when you watch him on TV, he just has an air about him, and there just doesn't seem to be any arrogance about him. It's just like, I know what I got to do. I got to get it done. And I just am appreciative of everything I have in my life. And I'm just going to, come out here and, it's kind of like, he's looking around and just taking it all in. And, he's been there dozens of times before. It's not his first Masters, but it's like, it's the first one each time he goes there. So he just sort of has that aura about him. And I think that's why people really resonate with his personality. They just see that he's kind of a down to earth guy, even though he's, worth a lot and has a lot going for him and gets to, play golf for a living, but he's just a humble guy. So, but all right, so let's talk about landscapes. I'm going to call it LGM for short, because I don't know if I keep saying I will throw it out there every once in a while. I want people to know what I'm talking about. So, landscapes golf management is what I'm talking about. We're going to call it LGM for short for a little bit. Talk about the origin. Well, first off, talk about you. Talk about how you got interested in golf. Obviously, you're a PGA professional, and so obviously you like the teaching and obviously enjoy playing as well. But so what got you into golf first off, and then let's talk about the origins of LGM.
Well, I went to college and got a business management degree and played on a small college golf team, and that really started me down the path of golf. And as I got toward my senior year, there was a number of us classmates really talking about what we were going to do after we graduated, and that's really where I became familiar with the opportunity to pursue being a PGA member and to become an apprentice underneath the Class A member, which is really what I ended up doing after graduation. So I went down that traditional path of assistant pro for about 4.5 seasons, and then got my first head professional job. And after holding that position for another 2.5 years, I got introduced to corporate golf management for the first time in 1998. And I attended a seminar learning a little bit more about what being a general manager might mean versus being a head golf professional, and coming to understand the agronomic side of those responsibilities, food and beverage, accounting and finance, human resources, and just was really interested in more of a holistic approach to managing a property and not just a departmental approach. And that appealed to me. And so I got involved with another group at that time, one that you'd be familiar with if I said, but worked with them for a number of years. And that has just appealed to me ever since. So that was more than 25 years ago. More recently in the story, I joined Landscapes Golf Management 13 years ago in 2012, when they were looking for a regional operations manager. And that fit my background. I had come up through the ranks and run everything from municipal properties to privately owned daily fee, upscale daily fee, resort and private clubs as well. And they were looking for a regional manager that had experience in each one of those and can really act as a client liaison and a mentor to individual general managers at a small portfolio of properties. So that started about 8 properties at that point in time. And so held that role for a little over 2 years, about 2.5 years. And our business development person who had been leading the company up to that point, and we had modest growth at that point in time in 2012, he moved on to another position. And we left that seat open for a period of time and thought perhaps we would just handle that internally on kind of platoon basis, and didn't have a lot of success in growth. And I did have in my background, part of the story, I left out some sales experience. And so our president, Tom Everett, looked to me and said, well, you've been with us now for a while, our people, our systems, our processes, our approach, and you're comfortable speaking in front of an audience of people. Would you like to try this? And that was an experiment we began about 10 years ago. And I guess it's gone pretty well so far, but I've held that responsibility ever since. And as my title grew from vice president to executive vice president, we've layered on some other additional expanded duties that I have relative to the development of the company as a whole. However, day in and day out, I serve in this capacity and share with owners and operators and boards and city administrators the value of the management company relationship. And that's really what I do today, day in and day out.
It's interesting, just to go back for a second, you talked about some of the things that you've done as a golf professional. And I don't think people really realize just how many different hats there are in our profession. I mean, obviously most people are familiar with tour players, of course, as golf professionals. Many people are, familiar with the teaching side of golf and obviously a certain amount of golf management, but they don't really realize that there's a lot of other things in this business as a PGA professional that you can do. And, you've obviously, dipped your toe in many different, waters, if you will, throughout your career. And obviously you have settled now at this point in something that you really enjoy and want to foster and continue to help grow. But, a lot of people for the average folks out there, they don't really realize what it is that golf professionals and the opportunities that they have. And you've had obviously some great opportunities to be able to expand on that. I want to get you to talk about some of the, I guess, the proliferation, if you will, of retaining multi-course operators like your company. What's the reason behind that? Why does it matter? What's important? Because again, the average person out there that obviously people tuning into the show, many of them are going to understand that are in the profession, but those are not. What is it exactly that you guys do? Talk about specifically what you're doing and how you're helping a lot of these golf courses.
I think it's just safe to say that the industry just continues to get layered and more complex. And I think that is a great thing from a consumer perspective, that we're delivering more and more value and experience-based programming for our customers. But when it comes down to, well, who has to own that back at the property, you really are spreading a single individual very thinly. And I'll just touch on just some of the responsibilities of a typical general manager, but would be anything from guiding their individual department managers, holding them accountable, mentoring them, providing them goals, getting them together so that they can have a common vision and execute on behalf of the membership or the guests. There's always going to be that piece, but they act really as the head of human resources. They are the chief financial officer. They are the liaison to the owner, whether that be a board or a park district or whether that be individual owners. They've got to really understand the business in total and be able to communicate that. Certainly on a monthly basis and sometimes, weekly and daily from time to time. They are the chief problem solver and strategist on property. They have to have very strong skills in food and beverage and hospitality. They have to understand agronomics at least well enough to be able to take a tour of the golf course and take feedback from the superintendent, talk strategically about what we can afford to do at this point in time, where we need to be spending our resources, how we're going to replace our equipment fleet over time, what are our considerations below ground, whether that be irrigation systems, whether that be infrastructure like cart paths or bunkers, and understand enough to be able to ask wise questions and take good feedback from your superintendent. And then again, communicate back to the membership and to the owners. They have to understand golf operations, and they don't all come through the PGA track like I did. So some are coming from the food and beverage side, but need to understand the golf operations side. And once you start layering in pools and paddle sports and sometimes lodging and on, the duties are very sizable. And we're playing with, not playing, I guess we're managing on behalf of our owners. Sometimes their life's work has gone into this. They put significant funds behind this, and there's a lot of risk there. There's a lot of reward as well. But one individual being responsible for that without a team behind them is kind of a tough spot to be in. And so that's really what a management company is built to do. And so we have specialists in each area, each one of those disciplines that I mentioned, accounting and finance, legal, human resources, food and beverage, agronomy, golf operations, programming, marketing, sales, technology. Those are some I didn't mention yet. We're also looking for our GM to understand those pieces. We have support personnel that are experts in each one of those that can support that individual general manager or any other department manager that they want to come alongside. And so that's really the advantage of a management company, is a team approach to problem solving, to business planning, to long range planning, capital planning for the facility, that it's not all on the shoulders of one single individual. And I think that's the attractiveness for a lot of our owners and operators, not to mention some side benefits that we bring to the table that are valuable, such as national purchasing power, the ability to bring economies of scale to them, and significant savings when we're purchasing for 60, almost 70 properties now versus a single shop. That's a real cost savings on an annualized basis. We're also able to bring alliances from a personnel standpoint within our network as people within our network of clubs kind of rise to the ability to manage and take on the next challenge. We're able to move them in and out of different properties when there's needs for that. So that helps our team grow, but also helps our client properties fill those holes as people move on to take other jobs or other experiences and leave us. So all of those things are important. And not to mention, I guess, lastly, is just the ability to play multiple properties. You know, when you're a member at one of our facilities, you have access to all. So,
yeah. And you know, one thing I just want to add real quick too, what people have to also understand what you bring to the table, besides the many things that you just discussed, is you're able to offer to the owner management, when I say management, not your management, but their management, if you will, is an objective viewpoint as well, which is extremely important because you're able to look at things from a distance and you're able to say, okay, we see trends here, we see patterns here going on. Here's some of the recommendations. Here's what you need to focus on more, or you're not focusing enough on. Because sometimes when you're, you know, as a business owner myself, when you're in the trenches, you sometimes don't always see the forest for the trees, and you need an outside, you know, expertise to be able to look at it objectively and say, you know what, hey, Ted, love what you're doing here, but we're seeing some things here that we think could be better, and here's what we're going to recommend. Ultimately, the decision may end up being mine, but again, having that objective viewpoint from you know, a set of experts like that in various different fields is extremely valuable as a business owner to have that that team available. So yeah, you're bringing a lot to the table, and but again, you're bringing an outside perspective, which sometimes is needed, especially in this day. And this brings me to the next point that I want to get you to get your sort of point of view about this, because when we look at how things were run in the past, how, you know, the present, and where you see the future of managing, you know, especially profitable golf businesses, there's been a lot of changes in our industry. You see what the trends were in the past. Some people are sort of stuck in the past. They're not really in the present, and they're not always thinking about the future. They think they're, you know, change isn't necessary. Let's stick with the status quo. But you've seen the past, you're seeing where things are now, and you're looking forward to the future. Give us your thoughts. Where do you see the trends going? Where have they come from? And where are they right now? I know that's a lot to
well,
digest, but
that's a big question. No, that's fine. So just, you know, looking back, maybe just pre-COVID, and it's hard
sure.
not to, you know, use that as a sort of a line of demarcation because things shifted significantly
Yeah.
pre and post COVID. But prior to that, in the run up from roughly the early 2000s to 2019, we just saw a steady decline in rounds played. It was really
Yeah.
becoming very concerning. And a lot of what we were doing during that period of time with clients was helping them just hang on, you know, develop strategies to be wise stewards of the limited resources they had
Yeah.
and drive additional ancillary revenue wherever we could. There was limited rounds. The market was cut too thinly. And so the game was really, can we hang on? And I guess to some extent that worked. The industry lost about 1,200 properties
Right.
during that period of time. So
Yeah.
trying
Yeah.
to help those hang on that could was really the prudent thing to do, but it didn't seem sustainable long term. And we needed some sort of a shift. And COVID just happened to be that. But prior to that, we were coming up with unique programming that would include anything from field days for the kids and bounce houses to yoga classes, cooking classes, fishing classes, 5 and 10K runs in the off season,
Yeah.
comedy nights, movie nights, just anything to get folks to the property so they weren't
Yeah.
purely seeing us as a golf course. They were seeing us somewhere they could bring their family, and hopefully we could get the reward of a little bit of a fee for the activity and some food and beverage and some goodwill and maybe some extra visits. And that was just crucial in helping our customers really survive that period of time in our industry. And the impact on assets was that many of those properties, even if we could keep them cash flow positive, it was minimal. It was enough to service principal and interest if they did have a loan, but there just wasn't much capital left over. There wasn't enough free cash to really
Yeah.
develop their infrastructure and keep up with the age of their infrastructure. And so there was a big lag or deferred capital issue building as we reached 2020. And so if I shift past 2020, and I think we all know what happened there, and golf really
Yep.
became a safe game that folks could play when they were otherwise stuck indoors much of the time. And that led to getting a lot of people that were latent demand that were interested in golf, but only casually, perhaps at a Top Golf type of a venue, or Pop Stroke or something of that nature, where
Sure.
they hadn't really made it to what we would call a green grass location, where you may have 9 holes or 18 full holes to play. They hadn't made that jump yet. Those folks knew enough about golf and began to see golf as safe, and they said, well, maybe that's what I'm going to do. Maybe that's the thing that I'm going to entertain myself with during this difficult time in 2020 and 2021. And so we saw some folks shift from latent demand into new players. And so over the last 5 years, we've seen about 10% growth over the prior 5 years prior to COVID. And so that has really infused a lot of confidence into the industry, a lot of new capital into the industry for new development, and it's made all of our properties healthier. So immediately, what happened in the first couple of years post-COVID was we had owners saying, okay, that was 2 good years of cash flow, and I have a lot of deferred maintenance and deferred equipment needs. What do I do first? And
Yep.
what could I do in a phased approach that if I fix this now, I might get more activity from my client base or my membership base in that location driving revenue. I can reinvest that revenue in years 3, 4, and 5. And so helping, again, when we talk about what does a management company do, helping walk a client through that strategic approach where, I'm not sitting on millions, but I've now harvested several $100,000 over the last couple of years. How can I best use this and parlay that into other opportunities in the years to follow? And so that's really what we've been doing since that time with existing clients, is help them navigate that. And many of them have caught up on years of ignored and deferred maintenance issues and equipment needs. And so it's nice to have them healthy again. Nobody knows the future for sure, but
Yep.
most of the industry experts don't see this slowing down. There's just no signs yet of that. It seems sustainable. And I think I would attribute that to something I mentioned before, is a lot of the efforts that we are making, the extraordinary efforts to create unique programming, to keep people engaged. We had all that in place in our playbook. So when customers came, even from outside of green grass properties, we had a lot of fun activities to keep them engaged beyond just playing the course, which still in some cases is intimidating for them.
Yep.
And we're playing it off peak times, and they're taking some clinics and they're learning as they go, but they can keep coming back to the facility, and we get to know their names and their likes and the things that they like to do, and get them plugged into a community of people that aren't always playing competitive 18-hole rounds of golf. They're doing a lot of other things and activities that we have for them at the club. And so I think that's a bit of a testament to the resourcefulness prior to COVID, set us up to be able to keep these players engaged post-COVID and keep things going, keep it building.
Yeah, and some great points. And I think also too, Mark, is when you look at sort of the new demographic of players coming out there, most of them, if they didn't grow up in a golf family, didn't really understand much about golf, their really only exposure was what they saw on TV, something like they heard about the Masters or the US Open. They had very little, if any, exposure. So to them, golf was, well, that's out of reach for me. I'm not an LPGA or a PGA pro. There's nothing in it for me. And it was really smart for a lot of properties to diversify and offer other programs like you talked about, to get them out there when, green fees were maybe down a little bit, and get them engaged and say, hey, you know what? I like this property here. There's a lot of things to do. Hey, while I'm here, I'm going to try out this golf. I'm going to take a look at golf. Maybe I need to take a second look at it. There is something for me. So it really opened a door. And, and we're going to talk about this here now and I want to get your thoughts on this. When it comes to the modern day golfer, and the other thing, one last thing before I do that, I want to mention the other thing that as tragic as was that COVID did, in addition to opening up a new crop of golfers, it brought a lot of golfers that slid away from the game for a few years. Maybe they were older and they thought, you know what, I'm kind of past, my enthusiasm for golf. I'm a little older and I'm just going to enjoy life. And then all of a sudden there's like nothing to do, and thought, well, okay, maybe I'll give it another try. And now they've sort of been bitten by that bug again. So you get a lot of the more senior golfers coming back out as well. But the modern day golfer, and you touched on a lot of things, their experience was entirely different because many of them didn't grow up in golf. They didn't play on golf teams like you did, and didn't have maybe family members, younger generation of family that didn't play golf, knew nothing about it. So you introduced them to other things to get them out there. But what what is, I guess, the desire? What are they looking for? What is some of the feedback that your people are getting, not just at LGM, but also from your groups that you're working with, properties that you're working with? What's been some of the feedback about what experience they're looking for off the golf course, both off and, I guess, on the golf course?
I think there's several things. I think from a maybe from just a technology standpoint, the ease of booking a tee time and feeling comfortable, whether or not I want to talk to a human, and that's just the nature of things, right? I want to have access from my phone. I don't necessarily want to have a conversation, but
Right.
I want to be able to feel confident that I can navigate your website, whether it be on a mobile device or whether it be from a laptop, and book a tee time and know when I'm supposed to be there. And so they're certainly looking from a technology standpoint, and we're even adapting programs to move them in and out of the golf shop more quickly, just from a check-in standpoint too, and checking in advance is one of those. So some of it is technology, some of it is just creating an environment in which they can easily navigate the property as soon as they drive in the parking lot. Whether that be signage, whether that be people welcoming them as they come in. Um, those are sometimes soft skills or basic skills that you would expect to be in place. And yet, the last time we had a boom in the 90s, we didn't necessarily treat new faces that way. And so I think what you see is those of us that are a little bit longer in the tooth now in my career, I remember that, right? Right, exactly.
Right.
I remember sort of what the impression was, and we just made the golf courses longer and harder, and we didn't really welcome new players. They were in the way. And you almost kind of shame them into the rules. And don't you know how to dress? And don't you know where to stand? And don't you understand etiquette? And
Yeah.
why are you out here if you don't? And there was a little bit of that air, and we've tried to put all of that away as best we can. And yes, there is a way to handle oneself at a golf course, but there's also a polite way in which to teach that over time. And you're right, a lot of these folks didn't come up through a caddy program where they would intuitively know that, or play
Yeah.
junior golf where they would intuitively know that. And so we need to come at them with a little softer approach and give them the chance to have some success and feel welcome. And I think that translates to the golf course too, is that we need to have a lot of beginner programs that can bring people from, as I said, a top golf experience where it really is a gamified experience. My score doesn't matter. I moved the ball forward. It went into a hole of some color and some lights went off, right? I got to get them from that
Right.
to some similar
Right.
experience where I can have some success and some positive endorphins
Mm.
for some success on the putting green, or maybe on the driving range. Maybe we have some technology on the driving range in some cases to mimic what they learned early on or what they were familiar with in a top golf venue. But whatever we can afford to do at our properties, we need to give them an on-ramp. And I've often thought we weren't paying much attention to perhaps the ski industry, because I think they do that as well as any. You can go to a resort anywhere in the country and have no idea how to ski, and they have a program for you to
Yep.
plug you in, and they have ways for you to experience success until you're ready. And even once you're on the big mountain, now I have greens and blues and black diamonds and double black diamonds and bowls, and I have my way to progress through
Yep.
as I gain skills and gain confidence. And I think we were the first time around. The last time we had a boom 30 years ago, we built a lot of double black diamonds and said, good luck,
Yeah.
and let people
Right.
fall down the mountainside. Right. And so I think we've learned from that. And I think we've gotten wiser. And I think that's why people feel more welcomed when they come to the properties. And I think that's a big plus.
Yeah, well said. And I think just going back to, talking about the past, I think one of the other issues that, many golf courses struggled with was this sort of, I'm going to come up the driveway in the morning, open the doors to the golf course and, let people come, because they had that flow of traffic coming in. People were coming, whether they were members or, semi-private, whatever the case was. But then there came a point in time when that slump, if you will, came in, where that wasn't happening. You couldn't. So are you seeing now more properties realizing, through whether it's through the assistance of technology, social media, whatnot, instead of just going and opening their doors in the morning, they're actually reaching out in their communities and finding ways of drawing people in. So they're actually engaging more with the public through, effective campaigns, in other words, they're not just going and opening the doors in the morning, they're finding ways of integrating themselves into a community atmosphere. And again, obviously in some cases on a global scale, but for some of your larger properties, resorts and things like that. But are you seeing that as becoming more and more of a trend as well?
Absolutely. I touched on it a little bit by having clinics, but I guess you could look at that as more of a passive approach, that we're going to have those whether people show up or not. But I think
Sure.
going into schools and
Yep.
interacting with kids that way, and providing free lessons, and building a program and a junior program that way. I think the PGA has done some great things with their PGA Junior League
Yep.
to foster activities like that for young people, to get them playing the game as well. I know our superintendents are beginning to go into schools as well with their STEM-based program, because one of the other things that happened really pre-COVID, it started, and now we're really seeing the impact of it. A lot of our assistant superintendents have left the industry. And a lot of our superintendents are getting up in age, and we don't have really good bench strength there. So even to kind of switch for a moment and just say that's another way that we're trying to rebuild the infrastructure of our industry to be able to take care of customers long term. And some of it's just recruiting people back into the industry that left. And to some extent, that's true on the assistant golf professional side too. We don't have the bench strength we once had in the
Yeah.
PGA side of the organization either. So it's not only just creating programs, I think, for the customers, but making sure the next generation of service providers, hospitality providers, and technicians, and specialists and artists, which really are our chefs, our food and beverage people, and our agronomists, are all artists in their own right, making sure that we've got the depth there to carry this thing on for decades to come.
I've had the pleasure, this is my 13th season doing this show, and I've had the pleasure of interviewing a lot of different folks of different, genres, different age groups and whatnot. And one of the things that when I'm talking to some of the younger folks out there, one of the things that they have said to me that are newer to the golf business, newer than you and I are, have said one of the things that they want to experience is they want to have fun. They understand the importance of, getting down and, like they did in the Masters, they've got to focus on, making the putts and hitting the shots that need to be hit. They get all that. But at the same time, even some of the tour players, like I interview a lot of the young ladies coming up on the Epson Tour as an example on another program I do. And they've all said the same thing, that there's times when they get so hyper focused on the game that they forget to actually just go out there and have some fun. And I think that's something as well that this younger generation is really bringing. And the reason why I bring this up is we want to get into talk about technology a little bit, is the onslaught of Bluetooth speakers on the golf course. I mean, I've gone on something you never heard 20, 30 years ago. And my father, or actually older than that, but took me out in the golf course. You didn't hear some tunes blaring out in the golf course. Now you're hearing it out in the golf course. And yeah, I can understand it can be a little disruptive, but these kids want to have fun. If they're going to be engaged, again, going back to the technology, everything from booking online, doing all these things, but when they're out in the golf course, there's a time to be serious, but there's also a time to just kick back, and I'm with my buddies and we want to just have some fun, maybe throw a little money on the holes or whatever the case. Is that something as well that you're trying to work through with your company, with your properties, and saying, we need to make sure that not only are we building revenues up and things like that, but the people are having a great experience, not just playing golf, but actually a great experience at your facility all the way around. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I think, we've really had, you mentioned music, but we've had music playing outside of our clubhouses and our driving ranges for years. And, you have to be sensitive to your neighbors,
Sure.
but within reason, being able to create that environment where people can just relax, and music is a great way to do that as they're playing. And it's not just the young kids. I played in a two-man golf league last night, and the two gentlemen that we were paired with, one of them was 45 years old, very well put together, very technically precise. He walked. But on his little carrot cart here, he had music playing the whole time. And so it's really for everybody. And whether they bring it in themselves as a speaker, or whether we provide it for them as speakers in the golf course, I think that is right on point. But from an entertainment standpoint, I mean, obviously we have televisions and tournaments playing throughout the clubhouse whenever possible. Almost all of our private clubs now have at least one interior simulator bay, some of them as many as 3 or 4. So if we do have a bad weather day, or if folks want to get to the golf course before and after to play in simulator golf, or they want to get fit for a set of clubs, we've got that there for them. If they want to bring their kids out for a fun night, and it doesn't have to just be golf. There's a lot of different games. There's soccer games, there's You can shoot deer and different things, different settings that you can set it up and let kids have fun with it. It's beyond just hitting the golf ball. But those are just a few things, I guess, I came to my mind as you were talking about that we've tried to accommodate. So it's not always just traditional golf.
Yeah, and I know, like, for instance, I work with a lot of LPGA professionals, not just players, but obviously pros that teach the game. And something that's been very popular for years is, I know you're going to be familiar with this, the wine and nine, concept where and then get a little rowdy after a while, but again, making it fun and again, incorporating, let's get out and have some fun in golf. Because one of the things that, talking with a lot of female golfers is there's really a couple of areas of intimidation for them. Is one is they don't want to look bad out in the golf, where nobody really does. But guys, we can laugh it off, we can joke it off with our buddies if we hit a bad shot. But for the ladies, they're a little bit more self-conscious about that. But also, the point that you raised earlier is when they come up there, if they're not sure what to do, what's the protocol, where do I go, I don't even know where to drop my bag off, that sort of thing. So they want to have a pleasurable experience, and they want to feel like they're welcomed. And I think the best way to do that is by having some of the things that you talked about earlier, is being able to have, whether it's like a wine and nine or some other environment where you're kind of, in some cases, and you talked about entertainment. I mean, a lot of courses now are having local talent come up and in the evening having short, small concerts, even like where they might have one guy playing the guitar, but he's doing, around the campfire type thing. I'm sure you've had a lot of your clients are doing similar things as well. So it's not just about the golf anymore, is it? It's really about the experience when they're coming out to that facility.
Absolutely. A chance to build some memories with friends or with family, or with coworkers. And you're right. It's not, there is still competitive golf, but it's really not about going and shooting a score anymore. It's really about coming out and having a holistic experience. And food and beverage is a huge piece of that.
Oh, yeah.
By the way, and that's become so much more important with the more recent generations. And, they have more sophisticated palates, I think, than I did at their age, and they have expectations that come along with that. And that's everything from wines, but craft beers and healthy selections on the menu, and not sort of the dark corner restaurant deep inside the clubhouse, right, with the dim lighting. They're looking for opportunities to eat outdoors, if at all possible, eat near a body of water like the pool, if they can, if at all possible. And so that's a big part of their experience as well. I don't think you can lose sight of that from a food and beverage perspective. But one of the other things, I think, if you don't mind, I'll just jump in and say, one of the other expectations are just something less than even 9 holes to play. And we've seen a lot of additions to private country clubs and public facilities as well that can be as few as 3 to 5 holes. Occasionally be 9, but it can be 7, it can be 12. But putting in a short course where we're hitting shots that might be 80 to 120 yards, and it's just a loop that you can do in 45 minutes. You can walk it with 2 or 3 clubs. You can have a cocktail in one hand. You can still play games and challenge each other, but it's something more than just a putting contest. I think those of us that go back a ways used to have putting contests with our buddies on the putting green, but this is bigger than that, but it has that same spirit. And just another opportunity to get the family out there and have some success, whether they're at the beginning of life or the end of life, quite frankly. And they're just don't have the energy or strength perhaps to play 9 holes, but they could play a short course where the total yardage might be 1,000 yards, right? And we just got 10 holes that are 100 yards each, give or take. And we're seeing the expectation that we're thinking ahead and providing that wherever the land will allow us to do so.
Well, what you're seeing, I think now, just to expand a little bit more on that, is I think what you're seeing now. In the past, the golf course sort of dictated the market. This is what we've got, this is what we're doing, and the market, was developed that way. Now the market is actually dictating to the golf course, saying, this is what we want. So to your point, bringing these short courses in, 45 minutes, 50 minutes, what have you, with a variety, and most of them are feeding right off of the clubhouse, so they can get a drink, like you said, take it out with them. And you're seeing more and more golf courses. And it really boils down to this, is it's not even just about playing a longer hole. It's a timing issue. A lot of people only have an hour, and they want to be able to have that experience. It's the same thing with teaching. people used to come out for an hour-long lesson. Well, they're not doing that anymore. They're coming out for maybe 30 minutes, or they're doing it online instruction or something to that event, because they're busy with other activities in their life. So it's not that golf is not a priority. It's fitting in a different slot in their lifestyle. So for the really die-hard golfers that want to get out there and play, there's something for them. For those that just want to dip their toes in a little bit, there's something for them. So it's a much more diverse pot, if you will, than what it was, 30 or so years ago. What do you see the future for LGM? What do you see moving forward? How is that going to change from what you see? But before you answer that, what surprises you most about what you do? When you wake up in the morning, has there been times where you thought, wow, now I'm surprised about my job? What is it about your job that surprised you the most?
Oh, what surprises me the most? I guess I would say that the obstacles that I faced 10 years ago remain there today. I'm probably better equipped to overcome those, but
Sure.
the fears remain. And I think from an industry standpoint, the management companies that are out there, of course, I'm biased. I think we're
Sure.
one of the best out there. But there's a lot of good ones. And there are some stories floating around out there that are from decades ago. Problems that, yes, they happened, but that's not today's modern management company. And so
Right.
I'm sometimes surprised that those stories are out there because I know the origins of those. I mean, they go way, way back.
Yeah.
And so overcoming some of the same, challenges, but that's my job. My job is to walk through the anxiety that people feel when they consider bringing on a management company for the first time. I'm incredibly rewarded by the work that our team does. So from a surprise standpoint, I'm not surprised they're capable of it.
Sure.
Perhaps I'm surprised how consistently they deliver on that because I'm out there making the promise, right? I'm the tip of the spear in terms of I'm sharing with a customer that we can solve this issue that you have, and we have the right people in place. And yet I have to go on down the road and believe that behind me are the people that are going to honor that promise. And yet they do that day in and day out. And it makes my job a real pleasure. So I don't know if that's as much a surprise as it is a privilege, but it is fun to get up in the morning and know that you're telling a true story and you can make a difference. And there's people behind you that'll have your back and make it happen.
Sounds good. And what about the future of landscapes golf management? What's going to happen down the road? Where do you see it developing,
Yeah.
and where do you see obviously continued growth? I'm sure is going to happen, but do you see even more changes from what you're currently doing now on how your model is? Do you see it developing into or morphing into something different or more expansive? Where do you see it going?
Do you think we'll continue to grow? Now we've been strategic about that. We are adding some team members to my business development team. We don't have to get any bigger than we are, but we think we've got a good story to tell. We think we've got a good product to deliver to customers, and there's plenty of need out there, and people are getting more and more comfortable with the idea of hiring a management company, and we want to be prepared to scale as those opportunities present themselves. So yes, we're going to continue to grow, but we're a family-owned company. We're not traded on the stock market. We don't have any investors that we're beholden to. So we grow at the pace that we think is reasonable. We're not going to get out over our skis. We want to make sure that we can keep those promises every single time. But I can tell you that we're not done yet, and we have no intention of shrinking or going away. But we're not trying to catch anybody either. It's a really nice spot to be in. But we're sitting at roughly 70 properties now. I would anticipate over the course of the next 5 years we'll top 100. But there's no rush to get there. We're going to get there at the right pace, and again, make sure that we can bring all of our customers along and help them grow their businesses steadily along the way.
I have no doubt. I think you guys have a great business model, and just from listening to you here, obviously, and I'm sure your team members would concur. You have obviously a great attitude about what you do and an excitement about what you do, and that's you obviously love. It's very evident that you love what you do, and I think when you are in that position, it's very enviable for other people to look on the outside and say, "Wow, I wish I was doing what he's doing." He seemed, he's got all the enthusiasm and excitement. And it's not just hyperbole. It's not just double speak. It's genuine enthusiasm about what you do and what you're bringing, and the excitement level that you're bringing to your customers. And that's when that's when it's not really a job.
Right.
It's
right. And if
right.
I could share one other thing, and I know we're probably coming to the top of the hour, but I would just share that one of the things that's exciting about being part of a company like this is we have a sister company, Landscapes Unlimited, which is really the nation's leader in golf course construction, renovation, and irrigation. And prior to COVID, they were really working with maybe the top 20% of the market that were sort of insulated from the economy. And so if they wanted to do a renovation project, they could do it regardless of what was going on. And we were working with clubs that were struggling to get by, as I mentioned earlier. Now, because golf has surged the way it has and there is confidence again, those gaps are narrowing, and we're being able to work together on projects for the first time in a long time, and really birth a project from the architect's drawings to the first turn of the shovel, all the way through to opening day and well into the future. And it's an exciting time, not only to do what we do, but be able to partner with our sister company and bring something all the way through to fruition from just an idea. So it's, again, very exciting time for us.
Yeah, I have no doubts on that. So if people wanted to get more information, is there a website? And this goes for everybody, not just people that just want to investigate LGM. Where can they go to get more information? And obviously, I'm sure your contact information will be there if they want to reach out to you personally. But where can they go?
Very simple. Landscapes, plural, landscapesgolf.com. And that'll give you just an introduction to our company, some additional pieces that I wasn't able to share tonight, but my contact information is there. You can drill down into the different levels of expertise that I touched on and just see who the people are that own those within the company, put faces and names with those various departments and see if there's a need. And I would just say we're a company that from the very beginning decided we don't have to offer a turnkey solution. We're capable of it. We do that for the majority of our clients, but we can also work on a independent select basis. And if you just have a need in a particular department, whether that's agronomics, food and beverage, or any of the things I mentioned, we can deploy just in that particular area. And you'll see that demonstrated on our website as well.
Fantastic. Well, Mark, thank you very much for joining me this evening. It's been a pleasure speaking with you and sharing with the audience what it is that you do, and obviously, as I said, very passionately. I'm going to get you to hang on for just 1 second as I get ready to close out, and then I'll wrap things up here real quick. But I want to thank my special featured guest of the evening, Mark Mattingly, the Executive Vice President of Landscape Golf Management, and also special thanks to my earlier guest, John Decker, PGA professional on the Coaches Corner panel. Thank you, John, as always, for bringing your best to the panel discussions. Don't forget, you can visit the iGolf Sports YouTube channel to catch all of the latest broadcasts, including tonight's broadcast as well. And if you want to just listen to the audio version, you can go to Spreaker.com or wherever you listen to your audio podcast. But I want to thank everybody. I want everybody to have a safe and happy Easter holiday weekend as we get ready to roll into the first long weekend and just off of the back of the Masters. Congratulations again to Rory. And just on another note, I just want to remind everybody that if you want to watch the other program I do on Tuesday mornings from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern here on the same network as well, the Women of Golf with my good friend LPGA professional Cindy Miller, we'll be there, and we speak to many of the great young ladies coming up on the Epson Tour and LPGA Tour as well, and obviously other great individuals helping to elevate and raise women's golf. So make sure you tune into the Women of Golf as well every Tuesday morning. But I'll be back here next Thursday on another Golf Talk Live. Hope you'll join me, and God bless everybody. Have a great weekend, and thank you. We'll see you next time. And
Thanks for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this week's broadcast of Golf Talk Live. We'd like to thank this week's Coaches Corner panel, and a special thank you to tonight's guest. Remember to join Ted every Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m. Central on Golf Talk Live. And be sure to follow Ted on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you're interested in being a guest on Golf Talk Live, send Ted an email at ted.golftalklive@gmail.com. This has been a production of the iGolf Sports Network.